Can you please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your nonprofit history?
Sure. I'm Marice Fernando. I'm the Associate Director for Data Strategy and Technology at Exponent Philanthropy. Exponent Philanthropy is a membership organization, and we serve funders with few or no staff or leanly staffed funders. I work to support our database. We currently use Salesforce and also think about other ways our team can optimize our technology to help us and our members in our work. So I have always just had a passion for volunteering and helping others. I've always felt a responsibility to give back. So back in high school, I started doing some community service work through my youth group, and I volunteered at a local homeless shelter and a nursing home. And because of those experiences, when I was applying to colleges, and this is I went to high school in Smyrna, Georgia, which is right outside Atlanta, and then went to Berry College in Rome, Georgia. And I was invited to be a Bonner Scholar. So it's a community service-based scholarship. And as part of the scholarship, you spend 10 hours a week volunteering, and you're invited or encouraged to work with one organization just to maximize your impact and learning. So I started volunteering with the American Red Cross, our local chapter in Rome, and did several different things for them. It started out with a lot of admin work, so just answering phones and generating acknowledgement letters for donations. And then I started teaching some health and safety programs that the American Red Cross does in elementary schools and daycare centers. And then I was like, oh, this is really cool. I'd love other students to be able to do this. So I started coordinating teaching those programs. And I did this all over the course of my 4 years as a college. And that opened up the door for me to just see all the career paths that are possible in the nonprofit sector. Because before
Nice.
that, I just thought, oh, you volunteer. I didn't see it as a career. And then, yeah, out of college or grad school, did some member engagement work with nonprofit associations and accidentally ended up in tech during a database migration and staff transition.
I love that. I feel like there's a lot of accidental techies in the nonprofit world, right? It's still that part of nonprofit work where there is fundraising related university level training, but to go in specifically to go, hey, I'd love to just deal with nonprofit data and do really cool tech. It just doesn't really quite exist. And I know you mentioned Salesforce. A lot of these larger technologies, they may have a spin on their product to make it fit into the nonprofit world, but it's really quite the shifting landscape for to be a nonprofit technologist right now with all the new AI and do you adopt things and governance concerns that I think a lot of for-profit businesses are not looking at the same way.
Yeah, and a lot of nonprofits really only have like one tech person, if even. But
It,
what's really cool is that there are a lot of different peer groups, kind of like the Hive has for people in the nonprofit sector. And being a part of that has really helped me in a lot of ways and something that, just encourages me.
yeah, that's awesome. I love it. And if you were to say favorite part of the work, what is the part of nonprofit? And you've been doing this now since, university. What is the part that keeps you here that you just go, oh, this is why I want to work in nonprofit?
I love hearing the stories of how a nonprofit, the services or programs they provide are helping individuals. I think sometimes in a tech role, one of the challenges is like you feel a little removed from that. And then, my organization, like we support the foundations that support the nonprofits, so it can feel very removed. When we hear those stories, it's very inspiring. But also from where I sit now, I think being able to connect the dots between the data and the strategy and the impact is really exciting. It's like putting the pieces of a puzzle together. And then you do feel like you're helping eventually.
I love this. You're the second nonprofit professional in like 24 hours that I've had a conversation where they said it's like a puzzle and it's connecting. And because I was saying this is my favorite part of it as well. And so sometimes I think you're doing that at community-based levels, like hyper local communities. Sometimes you're doing it like nationally, like the work you guys do at Exponent Philanthropy, and being able to be a part of that journey, even if you're not right in front of the individuals you're serving, right in the moment with them. It's kind of cool to see that. And I'm definitely meeting a lot more people in nonprofit who feel like, oh yeah, it's the connecting the dots piece that's so enjoyable.
Yes.
Love it. So not a big surprise here, but what about nonprofit work that might be unique to your role? Like it's a challenging sector and it's doesn't feel like it's getting any easier anytime soon, but what are you finding is currently the most challenging in your work?
So I speak like from my personal
Yeah,
perspective and like the nonprofit sector in the US because that's
yeah,
where I'm based. But I think the biggest challenge right now is like how political a lot of issues that impact people every day and their basic rights have become, and the polarization that has resulted
yeah,
in. So right now a lot of nonprofits, especially if you have government grants, they've lost a lot of funding from the government grants or their fears about losing funding. Some funders are concerned about funding certain causes and how that will impact both, I think, nonprofits and funders in some capacities are worried about their status and if their statuses will be revoked. A lot
yeah.
of nonprofits are under political scrutiny, and again, concerns about losing their status. And there's just so much news and confusion about changing regulations. So all of that causes a lot of confusion. It takes away from the time and capacity staff have to serve the needs of their clients. And then that also just results in some challenges around burnout, right?
Absolutely.
For both frontline staff and executive level staff.
We don't often discuss like that cost of being nimble in nonprofit, which many of us have to do. We have to be able to make those shifts, and we're deeply influenced by government, by potential granting sources, by political climates. But being nimble is exhausting, right? It's like be having that ability to just go, oh wait, pivot here, pivot here. I think we often don't acknowledge, in the same way that we don't always acknowledge that like attrition of staff is going to influence how much impact you can make when you're having to consistently be able to pivot and be able to like think on your toes quickly, look for solutions. What are we going to do now? That has like a long-term cost, I think, on like the psyche of a team.
Definitely. Yes. That long term cost, like, built up over time when it keeps happening. It is exhausting.
It is exhausting. Absolutely. Well, and this leads so perfectly kind of into my next question, which is, you've been a part of the nonprofit Hive community for quite a while, which is lovely. You've brought in a couple of your teammates that are taking chats, which was awesome to kind of see more of the Exponent Philanthropy team join in. But how do you think connection and peer support is having a positive impact on your long-term work, both in the sector, but also in your current role?
Yeah, I mean, for my current role, like, we were just talking about earlier, a lot of nonprofits have only one tech person. So I rely on a lot of different peer groups to help me and support me in my work.
Yeah.
So I'm part of a few different peer groups through like the Salesforce ecosystem and then N10. There's a couple of other data nonprofit groups that exist. And first of all, it helps to just talk to people who get it, right? The challenges we encounter, because not all staff, unless they're in the weeds, really understand. So I find the groups helpful for like brainstorming solutions, staying on top of trends, sometimes just like commiserating together around a challenge or celebrating a win. It's also nice to be able to like give back when I can help somebody because I find so much help and support and problem, solving to my challenges. So when I can help someone else too, I feel like I can contribute and add value.
I think that's great. I have been a part of those Salesforce NPSP groups in the past. I got really close to getting my administrator license. And those groups, people are so generous in forums where you're taking a screenshot going, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. And people are so kind to often just like get in there and go, oh, you forgot about this, or setting up custom objects that have all these dependencies. And I do think there's a lot of space for nonprofit professionals to support each other. And it's not always that there's a formal sales and PSP group that you can go to. And so how do we find those like places for support and connection? And I love that you mentioned that now that you've been doing things for a longer time, you get to step in and share your knowledge of what you've learned. I think that's so incredibly valuable.
Yeah, and just like as an example, I think a couple of weeks ago, like I posted a question in a forum because I was having trouble setting up, a better way to track grants, and someone responded right away. They also work at a philanthropy support organization like mine, so it was really easy. Like they shared their screen and they, demoed how they have it set up. So it's because I think also Salesforces have like, help articles, but it's different looking at a help article versus seeing a real life situation.
A real life situation. And nonprofit is often really unique, right? It's not the exact same business use case that you might see, in a for-profit company. And we need to acknowledge that. But I also think when you're in nonprofit looking for either new technologies or how to optimize your own current technology, when you have a peer who's doing something similar to you, it's so much easier to kind of like envision it, because some of these technologies are either enormous or you just don't have time to learn it as in depth as you would like to. And so that like it feels almost like a cheat code when you've got those peers where you're like, oh my goodness, you already know how to do this. This is amazing.
Yes, you get targeted help.
Exactly. Very targeted help for sure. So what have you gotten out of being a member of this nonprofit Hive community to date?
I love the nonprofit Hive. So first, I think I stumbled across it because someone mentioned to me, oh, start following the Hive on LinkedIn. I did. And then we may have had a conversation early on. And in our conversation, I learned about the Hive chats, which is one of the things I find the most valuable. So, I think the matching algorithm is like super accurate and helpful because I've been paired with a lot of other data people in roles similar to me. So we've, exchanged resources, helped each other problem solve. We stay in touch. There's at least one person who I see in some of the N10 data groups that I attend. So we'll say hi to each other. Some of these have been one-off, one-time conversations, but we will schedule follow-ups if you really connect. And then even if I haven't if I'm not matched with someone who's in data and technology, it's inspiring sometimes to talk to other nonprofiteers and hear about the work they're doing, the causes they support, why they're passionate, what they're passionate about. And I think we talked about how sometimes exhausting working in the nonprofit sector can be. And I think in those difficult moments, those conversations are like little sparks of joy. And it reminds me why I'm in this sector.
Absolutely. It's 100% that for myself, because the work is big. The weeks are huge, and some days just feel so expansively. There's a million things going on that it's very easy to go, I'm like, this is a little bit too much, or it's overwhelming, or it's like you can't see like the greater picture of all the amazing work that it means to be a part of this sector and to be proud of working within the nonprofit sector, because there's not a ton of validation externally from society to go, oh, this work is worth doing, right? I think we talked about this at the beginning when you were talking about originally starting to volunteer in nonprofit, not even knowing there's careers in this sector, right? There's a whole portion of society at large that doesn't really even know about this work. So I think there's a unique space for like nonprofit cheerleading of each other and appreciating how hard the work is together.
Yes.
Absolutely. Well, this has been super fun. You've been around, and I love having people like yourself who are those data technical people, but you've obviously worked in other parts of the sector, because I would say you're the underrepresented parts of the nonprofit sector, or like within the nonprofit Hive as well. So I love what you bring to these conversations. And how best can people connect with you, reach out? How can they learn more about Exponent Philanthropy?
So Exponent Philanthropy, our website is exponentphilanthropy.org. We are also on LinkedIn. If you search for Exponent Philanthropy, Philanthropy. And then you can also find me personally on LinkedIn if you search for Marice Fernando.
Awesome. That's wonderful. Thanks so much for doing this interview with me. Super fun and just been amazing to obviously get to know you and the rest of your team as you've joined the Hive.
Thank you for the opportunity, Tasha.